Okay, if you want more time in your daily schedule, weekly, monthly, just you need a little bit more time. Maybe you feel like you have a mile long to do list. You can't get everything done every single day. You feel like, oh, I didn't get to this and that. And you feel that frustration. You're working really hard and you're like, man, I could use a little extra time. This episode is for you. And I am joined by my guest, Colleen Carswell, who is breaking it down. She is an expert on helping you be really efficient with your time and really focusing on time management and making it a priority. She's got incredible tools to help you really assess doing a time audit, really figuring out where can we delegate, where can we automate, what can we get rid of, really a whole system around our time management and the things that we need to be aware of, energetic pillars that we need to tap into. The answer that she had at the end of resilience round on how to help retailers be stronger, more rooted in success was a time management best practice. Oh man, the four W's. I'm going to start using that immediately. Love the four W's. So if you're like me and you're a busy business owner, then I think you're going to get a lot out of this episode. I did. I had full body chills a couple of times. I can't wait to use the tools that I just learned. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about my guest, Colleen. As CEO and founder of Structured to Scale, Colleen Carswell is a fractional COO and speaker with 17 years of hospitality leadership experience. She helps businesses enhance infrastructures to boost employee retention and maximize profit margins. You can learn more about Colleen and connect with her at structuredtoscale.com. And let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. Colleen, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
Thanks so much. Me too.
Yeah, this is going to be such a necessary conversation about how we can help our retailers with their time management, one of their most important, if not the most important resource. And I know that a lot of listeners struggle with this, me included. So I can't wait to learn from you. Before we dive in, will you take a couple minutes and share a little bit more about you?
Yeah. So we'll just go all the way back. I started in the hospitality industry in 2007 as the onboard wedding planner and then also part of the cruise staff. So, like, if you've gone on a cruise, the people who are just like getting the party going, emceeing karaoke, doing like I was a giant dancing panda in a parade, like that person. I was that person on the ships. And I did that for 2 contracts where I worked for 7 to 8 months each contract. And then eventually I worked in head office for Royal Caribbean for a little bit. I did some law work, specifically in bankruptcy. That was not my favorite job, but I do have that law background. And then from there on, I've just been in the hospitality industry, mostly in an events, weddings, and sales capacity, from resorts to hotels to country clubs and conference centers. I own my own wedding planning business for a little while, and I scaled that to Austin, Dallas, and Houston, Texas before moving across country. So I had to close that down. And then now I own Structured to Scale, and I work as a fractional COO, which basically just means I work in people's back-end systems, operations, get things streamlined, optimized, documented, workflows, funnels, all the things, because my big focus and my desire for my clients is that they're not only making a lot of money, but they're able to keep as much of it as possible. So that is just a little bit of me in a nutshell.
I love it. Oh my goodness. You're going to have to send me a picture of you as the panda. I need to see the panda picture.
I'm not sure I actually have the panda. I think I have a margarita, though. I was also a margarita.
How crazy. Oh my gosh. That is so funny. But I bet you got so much knowledge and experience from that job, from all of those jobs, that you
Yeah.
can really lend to what you're doing today, which is so incredible how you're helping small businesses because they really need it in this capacity. So let's kick things off here because I really want retailers to think about their time almost as much as they think about money and finances. And I just feel like there's so many, make money, save money, retirement, investing, profitability, and those are incredibly important, but there isn't as much resources or prioritizing time. And so, why is it critical for retailers to approach time with the same mindset as financial investments? And what's one way they can make that shift today?
Yeah. Yeah, for all the reasons that you just mentioned is part of it. And I think there are so many tools for our money. And we'd like to say like time is money, or we know that money and time are the same in terms of like the resources and they're limited to a degree. But where we kind of change that is the fact that let's just say you have a lot of expenses and one of those expenses is employee payroll. You can't just roll out and say, whoop, I don't have the money. Whereas we do that with time. We say, I have all these things on my list of things I need to get done. Whoop, I don't have the time. And then we just move on without actually implementing any tools. Like with your money, again, you have that profit and loss, you have forecasting, a bookkeeper, perhaps an accountant, all these things to help you understand your finances and optimize it, generate more revenue. But we don't have those same things for time. And then a really simple thing that I like to tell people, just like from the beginning, there's 4 shifts that I typically talk about. But one of them, the most important in my opinion, is I believe strongly that our words matter. Like the words that we
Mm,
use matter. So our words are going to result or impact our how we think, and it's going to impact how we take action, which is going to impact our results. And one of those things that we've been taught forever and always is to be productive. Like that's just in our
mhm,
DNA. Like we're just like, we've got to be more productive. But if you think about what productivity actually is, like at the core, at the foundation, it was brought about from an industrial standpoint. It was output per input. And if you think about it from that perspective, like why in the world are we striving to be productive? That just sounds like it's so cold. It's so like, it's just not something that I think anybody should be striving for. So instead, I like to shift people's mindset from this idea and a goal of being productive. Because again, if you say, I want to be more productive, okay, cool. You're going to do more in less amount of time. You're going to do more. And that's not really what the point is. But I like to say, let's be more in energetic alignment, is what I
mm.
typically try to focus on more so than just productive, because that could be anything. If you say my goal is to be productive, you could do a lot of things, but they may not necessarily be things that move the needle forward, or they may not necessarily be things that you love to do. Versus if you shift that and say, I want to be more in energetic alignment, then that's going to have a huge impact on the results that you see.
Oh, I love that. I personally needed to hear that because I say it all the time, and listeners, I mean, I'm sure you can relate to me. I need to be productive. If I take a break and I'm like, no, you need to be productive. You need to be productive. It's like ingrained in me. And actually,
Mhm.
back when in my 20s, I used to say productful. And at my job, and they would be like, oh, you need to be full of product. And I'm like, wait, that's not the right word. And sometimes I slip up, but I'm like, yes, I need to be productive. And there's this guilt that I'll have, or this frustration, or it's like you are doing a ton of things and you still don't feel like you're moving the needle or getting what's done. So that energetic alignment really gives us that shift that we need to think about things way differently. I mean, I'm already like, oh, yeah, my to-do list is not energetically aligned. Like, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
it is.
tool.
It's like that productive piece of it is in our minds, we're like, we need to do more. So then we have this huge
Right.
to-do list and it feels really good when we do the things and like we're checking off all the boxes. But again, are those boxes actually aligned? And that's the piece
Right.
that I think people are having to disconnect with. It's like we're being productive, we're checking all the things, but then at the end of the day, they're thinking, well, I don't feel like I accomplished the things that I needed to accomplish. And that's why, because you're not doing it from a place of alignment.
Right. And that alignment, that would come from where our goals are, the vision for the business, what we're trying to achieve, right? Which could be financial, but it also could be, scaling the business or adding a location or just having more time off. Maybe you want to take a month off in the summer, like whatever that's our focus, right? And that's how we
Right.
need to be aligned. Okay.
Right, yeah, there's a couple different ways of the alignment piece. One is to understand and identify those goals, and I like how you said, like, it is both professional and personal. I think that's what we tend to do a lot in business is, like, isolate the 2, and it's like we can only focus
Mhm.
on professional, we can only focus on personal, or even sometimes we have this mindset in business where it's, if I'm not focusing on professional, then it's not worth it, right? It's not worth
Right.
it to do that. And I think we'll talk about this in a minute, but I focus on energetic alignment from energetic pillars and like pouring into your energetic pillars, both professionally and personally.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just go there right now because as we were preparing for this, I'm like, energetic pillars, this sounds really interesting. So, what are they and how can optimizing them lead to better time management and improve team performances in a retail setting?
Yeah. So There are four main energetics of time. So you have I'm just going to run through them. I don't think I'm going to dive through all of them like in deep detail, but I'll give a kind of an overview and some examples of what people tend to resonate with the most. And so it's understandable. So one is the physical pillar, it's your mental pillar, emotional pillar, and spiritual pillar. I like to focus on the physical when I'm giving examples because I feel like people can resonate with it the most. But if you think about how you operate and when you are in energetic alignment with your physical pillar, meaning how you're nourishing your body. Are you staying hydrated? Are you moving? Are you getting enough rest? If you think about, like, let's say we went out last night and we had like a super carb loaded Italian dinner, and then we went out and we had lots of drinks, and then we stayed out until 3 a.m. in the morning. We got no sleep versus we went out last night and we had a really nice meal and it was nourishing. There was a little bit more greens to it. We didn't stay out super late. Like the way in which you're able to operate the following day, the way in which your energy is allowing you to respond is going to be completely different in both of those situations. The time, like the amount of time, let's say we have an 8-hour work day tomorrow for whatever reason, and that time is still the same, but the energy is going to be so different. It's going to play into how much you're able to do in that time and if they're going to be in alignment. So that's what I mean when I say energetic alignment with your certain energetic pillars.
Okay, so good. I just feel like I want to say this in case anybody's going through this too, so they know that they're not alone. For me, I'm in a super busy season. Like, I don't think I've ever been busier. And there's really good things happening. We have a lot of momentum. We changed our brand. My COO resigns. So there's team structure. I've got a new person who's on the team training her. Like, I've never been busier. And I will also say I'm having a lot of fun. So that's been like a really good positive thing. But man, I've never been busier. And so what I'm finding is that I am not doing my morning walks every day like I normally do. I am not drinking as much water as I normally do. I'm not eating like I don't even eat. Like I'll completely forget to have lunch, or you're just like back to back in all these meetings and you just don't. And I'm starting to feel that. And you don't perform your best when you aren't taking care of your body. And so this morning and yesterday, I'm like, I have to get out there and walk because I know I'm going to show up differently. So that means like I do just have to start my day earlier or make sure I just put those shoes on, get out there because it will help support me. And if anybody's going through that now, like I just want to say, I see you, I feel you, we're in this together. And if you could still just like get out there and do the thing that really will help you, because it's like the last thing I want to do. I'm like, I could just sit down and answer emails for 30 minutes, but it's like, if I get out there and just walk, I will show up differently for the day. So, really glad that you said that. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and I think too, like when you start shifting, like that's why I start with that one shift of just like changing your verbiage around productivity to energetic alignment. Because then you can start thinking about from that perspective, like you were saying, it's like, I know myself well enough to know if I take my walk, then I'm going to perform better. I know, like for me personally, it's like, I know myself well enough to know if I listen to music and I have a dance session, like I'm going to perform better. Like I know the things, like I get in the rut and I'm just like doing. And then I realize, actually, I need to be serving my energy better. Like I'm being quote unquote productive, but I'm not serving my energy. So I'm not showing up. And if you are in energetic alignment, if you are striving for that, your capacity is expanding. And I think that's the key piece. It's like there is just so much that you can do. But if you start to focus on that energy, you'll notice that you can do so much more.
That's so good. And it's so true. I love it so much. Okay. Now, speaking of these to do lists, our retailers have very, very long to do lists and probably feels like it's never ending. And it can absolutely feel so overwhelming. So, can you walk us through a simple time audit process that they can use to identify where their time is being lost? And maybe they could save and recover an extra 2 to 5 hours a week, which I think anybody listening to this would be like, that'd be amazing. So, how can they do this?
Yeah. So this goes back to you have to adapt the mindset and the expectations and be okay with investing time in order to make time. Because if you just sit there and you're like, I have all these things to do, but then you don't actually, and I have no time to do it, but then you don't actually go back and like try to solve for that, then it just is, it's a really big hit energetically because it feels like I've got all these things that needs to get done. I'm not doing them. And then that feels bad and that energy hits wrong and then that starts to like kind of snowball. So you really have to start investing time. And I wanted to set that expectation up front before I told you like the solution for this, because not everybody likes to do an internal time audit, because the core of it, the foundation of it is time tracking. And a lot of people hear that. And just based on how our minds are differently wired, some people hear that and they're nope, that's an immediate nope for me. But in order to fully optimize our time, we have to know where it's going first. So there's more to an internal time audit than just the time tracking piece. But at the foundation, again, that is going to be the key piece. And that's looking at like pretty much every minute of the day for a solid 2 weeks. And that's it, just 2 weeks, a solid 2 weeks. And just saying, okay, during this time, I did this and then this and then this, and just tracking that data, because you need to be able to have the data to go back and analyze. It's going to show you things like maybe you're doing repetitive tasks that can be consolidated.
Mm.
Maybe you have things that can be delegated. Maybe you have things that can be automated. Like it's really going to give you, like in our back of our minds, a lot of times we know the things, but it's not until we actually have it on paper and we've written it down and we're able to look at it strategically that we're then able to optimize it. Because then when you're able to automate and you're able to delegate and you're able to look at your time, that is where you start creating more time. But you can't actually create that time long term unless you spend a short little bit of time for 2 weeks tracking it.
Yeah, I feel the resistance when I hear you say that. It's like, "Oh my goodness," but I just feel like it would probably really give me that insight, like you said, to delegate or automate the repetitive things. We get so caught in just doing the everyday thing and it's habitual that we just don't realize, "Oh, this is not at all something I should be doing or I can streamline." And I feel like that could be a big one for our listeners. Like there's so, even just from like an inventory perspective or buying, ordering, team perspective, like there's just so much. How do we track this? I mean, this is such a simple question, but are we like writing it down in our notes app on our phone, or like how are we we're tracking this?
Yeah, I think it's different from everybody, but I'll say for me personally, and that's a lot how I like to approach time is it's completely personalized and custom to like you and your internal wiring and how your mind works. So I never like to say like you do it this way because that's the way it worked for me, because it's not necessarily going to be the way it works for you. I will say sometimes people do it electronically. Some people use an electronic or digital clocking app or time tracking app. And for me personally, I just have a planner. Like I just have a planner that goes with me literally everywhere. It's small enough to go with me everywhere. And I just write in there. It has increments of 15 minutes each. And I just write in there when I'm doing this, which again, only 2 weeks and not a ton of time, but I'm writing in there in those 15-minute increments what I'm doing. So for me personally, I write it, but other people do it electronically as well.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do, because I really want to take action from this episode, and I encourage our listeners to do the same, I'm going to just take a notebook and I love the 15-minute increments in there. And then I can just fill it in and carry it with me to remember, just get that down and do it for 2 weeks. Because I am so determined. I just am having a lot of realizations of like, I can't get to the level that I see this business going where I really want it to go if I am doing all the current things I'm doing. And I know our retailers are in that same boat. And I also want to say, like, you might not want to scale the business, but going back to the month-long vacation during the summertime, like that just might be something that you really want to be able to free yourself up from. Or if anybody's listening and they're in that burnout stage, like that really happens with a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses and our retailers. The thing with our retailers, like you're open, some of them 7 days a week. Like you've got a physical storefront. People are coming in, and ideally you've got a team to support you, but not everybody does. It is time to think differently about retail and about your store. And it's really important that we're thinking differently about customers and what's going on in the world, because let's face it, things are changing quickly. And if we're not evolving, we are being left behind. That is exactly why I created the conference Evolve. And I would love to see you in the room April 4th and 5th in Denver, Colorado. And just by being a listener of the show, you can save $200 on tickets. You can go to crystalmediaco.com/evolve and use the code ROOTED to save 200. That's ROOTED to save 200. Now, here's the deal. This agenda is fire. You can see the speakers on that page, but we're talking about all aspects of retail, new ideas for your store, things that you can add in to create revenue streams where you're making money in your sleep. Would you like that? I bet you would. I'm so excited for that topic. We're talking about marketing, social media, how to build a strong foundation. We're talking about money and profits. We're talking about exit strategies in case you are planning an exit. We are covering so many aspects of retail at Evolve that you're not going to want to miss this content. It's going to help you be a better business owner. Plus, you get to connect with all the other retailers that are going to be in the room and the retail pros that we're bringing in. So get your tickets. There's a solid chance we're going to sell out. And the longer you wait, the prices will be going up. So get your tickets today. And I can't wait to see you there. And so I do want to talk about that because that burnout and that overwhelm can come from lack of systems. So, what's one foundational system or habit every retailer should implement to stay on top of their responsibilities to prevent that burnout?
Yeah, the burnout piece is huge. And I think if there was just one, I would say it's kind of two, but I would say tracking daily and weekly reflections and planning, like doing your reflections every day. What worked? What didn't work? What drained me? What energized me? Did I take on too much? How did this new thing work? And just constantly going back and asking yourself these reflection questions. That's part of an internal timeout. But unlike the time tracking piece of it, the reflections and the planning are really ongoing. You want those to be a part of your like daily routines and habits every day, setting it aside maybe 5 minutes at the end of the day to do that reflection piece at a micro level, so daily, and then at a more of a macro level each week to say, okay, this entire week, how did this go? What drained me? What fueled me? What felt in alignment? And then that planning piece. I will say sometimes people look at me like I'm crazy because I spend so much time. For me, my end of the week is Friday, and I spend so much time on Friday planning for my upcoming week. Like it is a
Mm,
whole process that is blocked on my schedule because I know if I don't plan, if I don't actually know where things are going, number one, it clears me up mentally because I don't feel that overwhelmed. It's on paper. I know it's going to get done. I know how it's going to get done. But I think a lot of times when we go back and we're talking about those to-do lists, the reason they're not getting done is because we're overly ambitious and taking
mm.
on way too much than we're really physically able to do in the amount of time that we have in a day, no matter how energetically aligned you are. So making sure that you have some time, no matter what day that is, like maybe to make it one day every single week to plan the week ahead. And things aren't always going to go to plan. Like that's just like, that's not ever going to happen. But knowing, like being able to really see how much you have on the list and it helps you to understand, okay, yeah, Colleen, you took on like that's not doable. Like you can't do that. You're
Right.
gonna have to put that on a different time. You're gonna have to reprioritize. You're gonna have to shift some things. Cause I know if I plan a lot and I don't get it done, I just know that hit to my energy and and that doesn't feel good and it doesn't like result in the best things. So spending time reflecting and planning continuously every single week is really a game changer and helps you to prevent that burnout from happening.
For sure. I love the idea of planning on Friday so you can jump into the week next week, like ready to rock and roll versus spending your week at the beginning planning. Like that kind of feels, I like that shift. What if there's somebody who's sitting here who is listening and they are like, but there's a ton that I have to do right now. They're in a busy season too, like me. And so they have this really long to-do list and it feels really hard to not have to be able to move some stuff or whatever that is. They're like, I just don't see a way out. What am I supposed to do? Everything's on fire. Everything needs to happen now. I'm the only one who could do it. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I think understanding that we do all go through busy seasons. And sometimes we know that our busy season is just for a week, a month. And so if
Right.
that's the case, if you know there's an end date, like and you know there's an end date, then I would say look at that end date as long as it's soon enough. Let's say it's a month at the most. And schedule a time to do an internal time audit because that is what's going to serve you the best. Put it on the calendar, go ahead and schedule it in a not a slow season, but a slower season.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, things are going to come up all the time. And just understanding that it really needs to be a priority, the same way that you prioritize really anything is if you can make this the time investment, if you can spend that time investing in finding out how to optimize your time, how to fit that in. Even if maybe it's not like for me personally, just to be honest, like I spend an hour to 2 hours a week planning. Like, and that seems wild to some people, but that's a priority for me because I have learned over time that that is what works. But maybe you
Mhm.
don't start that big. Maybe it's like, let's just spend 15 minutes planning Monday. Like if it's something new to you, that's another thing that I like to talk about is if it's a new habit that you're building, don't go big. Like go as small as possible. If you're in a busy season, plan it. Maybe you just plan daily. You spend 10 minutes a day planning your next day, because what that will do is it will start to help you again get that mental clarity, because the day is done. You can put it on paper, you can close up your planner, and you can say, all right, it's taken care of. Like, I know it has a place and it's not today. My time is done for work today. I'm going to go be with my family or whatever it might be. But I think starting small, if you really feel that overwhelm of trying to consider where you're even going to fit this in, is to start as small as possible. Like just start building the habit,
Mhm.
even if it's just like 5 minutes a day.
Yes, I so agree. You said a few things in there that I think I want to just kind of echo. One is like I'm hearing almost the word grace. Like have some grace. If you and like ease on yourself, that it's okay to start really small. Pick something that's super easy, the baby steps. We can't just jump into completely morphing our schedule and our to-do list after we listen to this podcast. Like it will take time. I wish I could give that to you, but it will take time. And so you do have to have some of the grace and the patience. And that's something I've been saying to myself, like right now, I just have to be patient. Yes, it's a busy season and I have to be patient. And when you were saying, if it's a month, there's a date in mind where it's going to ease up a little bit. What came to my mind too, because this is what I'm going through is that I'm going to go on my honeymoon soon. We're filming this in November and I'll be on a 2-week honeymoon in Italy. And for the most part, I can not be working. I'm going to do some emails. I'm going to be checking in. I actually want to work at a cafe in Italy or in the lobby of our beautiful hotel. Like I'm excited to do some of that. But there is an end in mind for me. And it helps me know like this isn't the rest of my life. I'm going to be busy. It's like roll up your sleeves right now is just it's go time. And I think that's also our retailers during Q4. It's go time. It's just like time to roll up our sleeves and work really hard. But we know January's coming and that's our break. And that's when we can schedule some downtime. And this is where it's like, I think you need to almost have that scheduled downtime. Like I have the honeymoon. So it's really something to look forward to also help give that like momentum and that motivation when you're kind of struggling in the moment. So really good tips. And maybe I was that person that I was like, if anybody's listening to this, what advice would you give? I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. Colleen, I feel like we could talk about this forever because I know you've got a lot of tools and you've got a lot of ways to approach this and systems. You're so systematized, which that's what I'm learning is so critical for small business success. And you're going to come speak at Evolve, which I am so excited about. When we were chatting at a conference and I'm hearing what you're doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my retailers need systems. They need to free up some time. Like they need this. And so we're really excited to welcome you to the Evolve stage. So without giving too much away, will you share something like a powerful thing that you're really excited to share with our Evolve attendees?
Yeah. So we're going to talk through a lot of things that we talked about today, just in more detail, some tips, some tools. But I think at the end of the day, what I would love for people to take away, and it kind of came to when you were talking about this downtime. So I want to tell a little story and then I'll tell my tip. But um, I started taking, when you said like schedule that downtime, I started taking personal solo retreats, like just for myself. And there was no work involved. There was no doing. There was no planning in the head. It was just I go to a beach. I have time to myself. I sit in silence. I reflect. It's like, because I'm also a mom of four. So like life is chaotic all the time. And so giving myself that time every quarter, number one, it's something to look forward to. And number two, it's really helped. Like it has tremendously helped me. And what I want to say that I hope people take away, and this is what I learned on one of my retreats, is sometimes the key to success, and we talk about these busy times, is just to do less. Like, and for me,
Mm,
as someone who has been ingrained with the more I do, the more productive I am, the harder, sometimes even like the harder something is, that's going to yield better results. And what I've learned is it's actually the opposite of that. Because there was a time in my life not too long ago where I was homeschooling 4 kids. I was running 3 businesses. I was volunteering for nonprofits and leadership capacities. And I wanted to do it all. But then when
mm,
you really step back and you look at it and you're like, I'm doing it all, but I'm not doing it all well. Like things are, my
Right.
kids' education was suffering, my marriage was suffering, my businesses were suffering because I was trying to do too much. And it's really having that awareness that I needed to let some stuff go. And that came about from going on one of my personal retreats because it was like I had time for
Mm,
myself personally. And I think we think, if as business owners, if we're, and you had mentioned this at the beginning, like if we're not constantly doing, even in our downtime, it's like, and I am sometimes still, and it definitely was for most of my life. If there's downtime, I have to do something in it, right? Like I had a
mhm.
really hard time just sitting in the silence and doing nothing. Like that did not feel good in my body at first when I started doing that. But tapping into that and doing more of that is actually, and like doing less is actually going to allow you to be better business leaders, to be a better boss, to be a better mom, whatever role it is that you are filling in your life. I really hope that people walk away from this with the permission and then the understanding, like it's okay. It's okay to do less. Like we can
Mm,
do less. There's going to be busy seasons, of course, like you're talking about, but overall, you're going to be so much more in alignment and able to do so much more focused, more prioritized if you just take a few things off your plate. Things are going to be okay. Stop spinning them all at once.
yeah, I got full body chills when you said do less. That was powerful. I because we are really trained to do more, 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 more. Oh, you schedule to where you have more time, fill it. Like do more. And there is that mindset of the more I do, the more I achieve, the more I make. And if you scaled back, what does that look like if you did do less? And I really encourage our listeners to have this as a journal session or a walk or some meditation, whatever works for you. What if you did do less? How, and allowing that to happen, how could your business change or morph? And what would need to happen? I feel like this would be a really, for I'm very excited to do this myself. And I think it could be eye opening for some of our listeners if we actually let go of a few things and did less. What does that feel like?
Yeah, and part of, so I have an internal time audit that I've worked really hard on over the years to kind of compact it into an attainable resource. Meaning, the people who go through this challenge, it's a 10-day challenge. They spend 15 minutes a day, and what I really like to focus on at the very beginning of this time audit is shifting our mind. This is another one of the shifts I talk about, but shifting our mindset from, I can teach you the tools and I can give you the tools to free up more time. But what you need to shift before that even happens is understanding that we're not opening and freeing up our time to do more. Instead, I
Mhm.
want people to shift it from, okay, if I have all this time, because that's where our mind has gone in the past, I have all this time, what could I do? What could I fill it with? Like you just said, it's not what could I do, it's who could I be? And journaling
Mm,
and thinking about it from that perspective versus do. It's now, who could I be? Could I be a more present parent? Could I be someone who travels more? Could I be fill in the blanks? So that's another shift that I like to give people as well.
yeah, that's powerful. Again, full body chills. I'm
Good.
loving this. All right, Colleen, are you ready for the resilience round?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Best business book.
For me personally, Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time.
Ah, I haven't read that one, but I've heard really
Oh,
good things
so
about
good,
it. I need to read
especially if
it.
you have a team and you're in a scaling phase. Really, really good.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Best retail technology, like an app or software.
I'm gonna go the AI route. I know there's a lot of chatter around ChatGPT. I think it's just something people know. I don't like ChatGPT. I don't think it
Okay.
writes well. So my go-to is Claude, Claude AI.
Yes,
Yeah.
great tool. I know I'm kind of a ChatGPT person, but man, Claude is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to say like ChatGPT, we get in arguments a lot. Like he just doesn't get me. But Claude and I never have fought just once.
Oh, oh, good. Good job, Claude. How funny. How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape?
Yeah. So I think this kind of transcends all industries. How I like to keep up with different trends and changes is attending events. Like I am obsessed with events. I think it's the latest education. I think that you find, especially there's trade shows like the newest tech and software, and then the connections. Like I mean, obviously you and I, like
Mm,
that's how we connected. Like
right.
connections are huge to me. So if you can have something that has like all three of those in one, then I'm there.
Yeah, so agree. To help retailers be stronger, more rooted in success, what's a foundational time management best practice?
All right, so I'm gonna give my favorite tip, and it's starting every single day with the 4 W's. So every single day, 5 minutes a day. You start with, what was my win from yesterday? WIN. Like, celebrate, even if it's super, super small. Put yourself in that mindset to think positively, because we get so hard on ourselves sometimes as business owners when things don't go the way we want them to go, that we spend a lot more time like focusing on the bad than the good. So if we start to just change that habit from the very start of the day, so your win, your will, like, what will I get done today, no matter
Mm.
what? Because again, we can tack on all the to-dos in the world, but what will I get done no matter what? Because that's going to feel really good. And that might even be your win for the next day when you actually achieve it. And then what won't you do today? Like something you did yesterday that you're not super proud of, or like didn't make you feel really good. I like to always give the example. Sometimes there's nights where I have all my snacky snacks and I don't really feel good about that. And so the next day my won't is, I'm not going to do snacky snacks tonight.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is white space, and making sure that you have enough white space in your calendar. Because what we can do when we're looking at our to-do list is just like pile it all in there. But again, we don't have enough time to do all those things. And so giving that buffer space or that white space and making sure there's enough there. So doing those 4 W's every single morning.
Brilliant. I'm going to start that today. So
Good.
good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good. If you had to start your business all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
Yeah. So fun fact, I did have to start my business all over again because I did the wedding planning business, had to close that down. And I knew starting this business that my priority was support. So community and a coach. Like I did it in isolation last time and I knew I could not go that route again. That was one factor of burnout for me. And then a bookkeeper. Like I knew what drained my energy, and bookkeeping was the thing that drained my energy. So I hired a bookkeeper from the very beginning before I was even making money.
Yes, so true. So important. Finally, Colleen, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
Yeah, I think like with all industries, it's really that we're becoming more and more empowered by technology. And my background is in corporate sales. And there was a time when CRMs or customer relationship management software and other softwares like it was only available to people who could pay a lot of money, invest a lot of money,
Right.
because there were tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. And now we're seeing more and more technology emerge that can support us. That's at an accessible price point. I'm very excited about all the different things that continue to come out year over year.
I couldn't agree more. So good. Colleen, how can people learn more and connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me online at structuredtoscale.com or connect with me on Instagram at Colleen Carswell _.
Love it. We'll link to it too. This was super helpful for me, and I know it was for our listeners too. So thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Love it. Everyone, remember that I'm rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Okay, I have exciting news to share. The Rooted in Retail Mastermind is launching this January. It's your chance to connect deeper with me, the retail pros from the show, and an incredible community of resilient retailers, both online and in person, with several meetups throughout the year. Get on the waitlist at rootedinretail.com/waitlist. And don't just listen to the show, be a part of the magic and grow your store with us. I hope to see you there.